share screen. Hi, Gibson and X. How are you? Okay, yep. There we go. Peter. Peter, I'm sending you co-host right now. Now, I did invite the judge. I don't know if he's going to pop in because he was talking about the strawberry full moon tonight, and I totally forgot about that because I want to see it too. But I think, did it set already? Because it looked cloudy outside. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Dana, what's going on?
First of all, can we get 5 minutes of the Diddy tea?
Oof,
Because in the city,
what a day.
he was like in the city break, and that was like by like 12 noon, and he never came back on to report the thread.
No, something happened. Something happened with him. It died. His thread died out for some reason. I don't know what happened.
Did he leave?
I wasn't it. So I wasn't. He's like,
Wait, your phone going? Your phone is breaking up. Honey, your phone is breaking up. It sounds like shit.
How about now? Can you hear me better now?
It's a little bit better now. Yes.
I said that I wasn't in the main courtroom, so I didn't know. He's like a mayor over there. He gets like carte blanche to go into the main room. They hold space for him. But I was in the overflow room again, and man, it was a big day. Cross-examination. Tenny Garagos, Mark Garagos was there watching his daughter from the gallery. You know, proud father, watching him cross-examine this alleged sex trafficking witness on the stand. And
she sounds more like a sex worker.
She is. This today was incredible.
That's what her baby father called her. A little sex worker.
Yep. So they played some. It was a lot of funny moments. They played a voice note Diddy left for her, where Diddy came up with a new name for her called the crack pipe.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
No, that was today. Today they played that. You're my little crack. Okay. You're my little crack pipe, and then also came up with a name where like they were saying Diddy was saying that they were a trifecta. Not Cassie. I'm sorry. 50's baby mom, Diddy, and a porn star from the porn website Blacked, a gentleman by the name of Anton. And Anton was Shaq. I think Anton was Shaq. She was Kobe, and Diddy was Michael Jordan. So that was interesting. And then this shit was hilarious. Everybody was dying.
So that because he was funky.
Because he stunk, yeah. She was repulsed by him, she said. So the best part of the day, though, was towards the end of the day. She's getting crossed by Tenny Garagos, and they're going through text messages, right? And the substance of the message was that she was upset that Diddy had given Young Miami a Chanel bag and also a Maybach. And she kept going over how she felt upset because she felt she's doing all these dirty deeds in her mind, sucking all this dick, taking all this huge black dick, and she's not getting, the fruits of her labor aren't, bountiful enough. And so then Tenny Garagos goes over, well, how much is a Chanel bag? And she says she doesn't know. And so she then says, how much is but I think I'm not pronouncing the name right, Bategna? I don't know women's bags like this. She said, how much is the Bategna bag? I don't know what it was. Botttegna, maybe?
A Botas. I don't know. But I know you're talking about. Start with a B. Okay.
Yeah, right. So she says, well, 1,500 to $5,000, which a lot of women in the gallery were like, it costs way more than that.
Right.
And
And I
so
would have said that,
basically the
but if I was
implication.
see, I don't know why he was asking her those questions if he wasn't going to be specific. Because when she said she didn't know how much is Chanel bag, I would have said, "Do you own a Chanel bag? Have you ever?" Oh, and she would have been like, "Yeah." Then it's like, okay, but you paid for it. But she's full of shit. She knew how much it cost. But go ahead.
So then she says, how much is that bag? And she says the price, 1,500 to $5,000. But before she says that, she says to Tenny Garagos, you should know, you probably have one. And she said it like snide because she was getting aggravated with the line of questioning, because basically Garagos is illustrating that she did get a ton of shit. She got 40 grand to move into a 5,600 square foot house with her son, because it was $10K a month, so they required first and last month's deposit and 2 months security. Diddy's paying 10 grand a month for that, on top of the money he put down. 15K to 20K for furniture that Diddy gave her, wire transfers, jewelry and necklaces, and Diddy gave her 20 grand to invest in her dress fashion line that he never asked the money back for, didn't ask for any profit share, nothing. He's still paying her rent to this day, right now, today. And he paid for all the lawyers, even the current lawyer she's using to help her with this case, to walk through the government and do all the other nonsense. So she says, how much is my body worth?
Bitch, you already put a price tag on it. So let me just set this. Let me, and everybody on YouTube right now. Yes, nobody. This is a live stream. We're on X, and everybody on X, please repost and like. We are going to get into the topic. You loot, we shoot. Marines are arriving in LA. I mean, I should put LA riots too. Um, that is the main topic. The migrant crises and the riots, the protests, Newsom, Trump, Karen Bass, lying ass Democrats, yada yada yada, Crips. They came, was like, don't y'all motherfuckers cross this line of the city. They tore up Kobe Bryant's mural. So yes, we're gonna get into that. Peter is just giving us 5 minutes of the Diddy tea, right? Just 5 minutes of the Diddy tea. Peter could be a little bit long-winded, but get to the juicy part. Go ahead, boy. You are at the juicy part, so.
Yeah, so the implication that made Daphne get all upset was that basically she's saying, I did all this and got nothing, but if I would have got something compared to what these others got, she would be okay with it. That was the implication, and she realized that. And so once she realized, she drew that out of her, and she said this in the testimony, her demeanor changed like at flipping a switch. And she started using one-word answers and said, I can't recall, got nasty in her expression, and then said, I need a break right now. Hopped off the stand for 15 minutes, went and composed herself with her attorney, came back on the stand, totally different demeanor, one-word answers, very short to the point, not like she was in getting comfortable, showing her real self, which I thought it was masterful how they set the groundwork and the foundation to lead up to that. And also, I spoke to somebody who was in the main courtroom, and they said when she said that about how much is my body worth, there was an audible gasp from the jury. And so I think this blew up today in the prosecutor's face, and that she's going to be on the stand tomorrow, which is a short day. They're starting
It's
at
still
1 tomorrow. I think
still
the
a
juror
defense
has
gonna
some
be
type of,
questioning her tomorrow, right?
and Thursday all day before she leaves on an
To
international
go
trip.
hold some more overseas.
So yeah, you got to hoe it up.
And
You
my
need a
thing
couple
is
more
because
bags. You
I
got to
heard
get
she'll
that
be getting
bag.
$7,500 a month from her baby father, aka 50 Cent.
47,
Oh,
4,700,
47. The
47.
shit dropped. And I'm like, okay, what W-2s did this man show? The judge, honey, because you worth 500 million and you only gotta pay 4,500 for one child.
Well, he could have his assets in different LLCs and trusts, and then
Exactly.
that wouldn't be
That's
considered his.
right. And my
Correct.
thing
Yep.
is, I don't want child support. I want us to come up with an agreement. But now you go and you find a sponsor because you want to live a lifestyle luxury by any means, and you put a price tag on your body, your disease infested body. You sucking and fucking raw, funky, musty dick and
Porn
balls.
stars. Porn stars. They were seeking out porn. They would watch Blacked and then pick the porn stars they liked, and she would DM them.
A lot of them be
Literally
having
banging porn
diseases. That's
stars.
why she said she was sick.
Of course.
Oh, I see the judge. Come in.
She said what?
She said, didn't she say she had some infections?
She said she had to go to the doctor after taking four dudes in a night.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's an infection.
Yeah,
That's an
she's
infection.
taking them.
That's an infection.
It's disgusting. And the thing is, she's like, oh, we wanted our privacy, and you know, I didn't want to do like OnlyFans. She guess what she's doing since 2024 for financial support and income.
Yeah.
OnlyFans. Yep.
Because the money is lucrative.
So I think the best part of today's testimony was showing the jury who this person really is. And I was watching Maureen Comey's face. She was not happy with the way things were going, because Garagos was making her read all the crazy texts. I can't wait to take this dick. I can't wait to have it this and you in my, like, just the wildest shit.
Well,
Can't wait
I'm
to have
ready
your
for
nut
Carisha
all
to
up
get
in
on
my.
that stand. I want Carisha to get on that stand, and I want her to tell us, you know, all the nasty stuff Diddy had her, you know, all the dick she took in her ass and mouth and pussy. So, Judge, I sent you a co-host request.
It's not going. It's not going through.
All right, let me. Let's see. If I cancel co-host, can I resend it to him?
Yeah, cancel it. Make sure you update your app, because they pushed updates recently. So make sure you go into the App Store, update the app first.
Well, I just sent.
Dana, do
I
the
just
same
sent you
thing.
another co-host request. See if it popped up now.
Wow, I'm looking at this moon now. The moon looks
I
crazy.
don't really. You see it? I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a picture. I'll
Yeah, I
post
think
it.
it's cloudy. Okay, you're a co-host now. Hi, Judge. Now,
Judge, what's going on? I heard you were gallivanting
yeah, because people
for the
been
last few
asking
weeks.
about you. I said, listen, it's hot. It's hot outside. It's summertime, and the judge is outside. So that's why you have not been doing spaces, um, which is fine. But yeah, you've been outside. How you been? Can you hear us?
Judge, can you hear Dana?
I don't think he can hear none of us.
Gibson, see if he could hear you, since you're not a co-host.
I can hear everybody.
Yeah, but I don't see anything moving on his end. I can't seem to turn the mic on. Oh, that's what I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
He just texted me and he said he can hear us, but he can't turn the mic on. He probably do need to update his X. He probably do need to update it. Unless he's probably gonna have to go out and come back. Let me text him to go out and come back. Go out and come back. All right. Um. Okay. Hi, Walter on YouTube. You guys on YouTube, you can hear me loud and clear as well. So, can you hear me, Peter? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, but that was it, Dana. That was pretty much the biggest part of the day, and then they're going to resume tomorrow at 1 p.m. because the juror has a conflict where they have to do something in the morning. So tomorrow's like a late start.
Yeah, because they want to get rid of a juror, right?
Juror number 6, supposedly, I heard. I was talking to a couple people that were in the room, but they didn't get into why. I'll find out tomorrow.
Okay.
And the judge also denied the mistrial.
Yeah.
So he denied the mistrial, and then he also denied the prosecution's request to bring Dr. Hughes, who's the expert psychologist, back on the stand to refute something the defense said. So,
Oh.
interesting.
I just sent you an invite, a straight up invite, Judge.
Yeah, I just brought him back up,
Okay.
so
But why
he
he
should be
dropped
back
down? It
up as
looked
a
like he
speaker
dropped down
now.
a speaker now. I mean, to a listener. He just requested again. What I'm looking at here.
Yeah, it's showing him as listener now.
Okay, now he's co-host. All right. So, can you hear me? You just gotta unmute.
I can hear you.
You gotta unmute, Judge. You're muted. He said he can hear, but he can't unmute. Oh my God. You need a new phone. He can't unmute, Peter. All right. I don't know. I don't know what to say, Judge. Hi, Derek. You wanna get let's get into this LA riots and migrant crisis. You can't, as listener, I can unmute, but not if you're a listener, you can't do anything, Judge, because you're not speaking. Um can you hear me, Derek?
I can hear you. This is Exorcist though.
Hi, Exorcist. Gibson, are you still there? Peter, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All
I hear
right,
you loud and clear.
Gibson, you're up.
Gibson, you got the mic.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening to the space, everybody. And looking at the title, it says, "You loot, you shoot." No, absolutely not. Don't shoot anyone unless it's absolutely warranted. Just for somebody looting, do not shoot them. But we do need to step up, step down on the looting. We need to put a stop to it. They need to be incarcerated immediately and charged, and also on the rise. And I think that the leadership that is calling for all of this need to be arrested. The mayors, the governors, that is letting it. They're sworn to uphold the law of the state and the federal government, and they're not doing that. So I think they should be arrested also. I think that's what actually will send a message, and it'll kind of stop some of this rioting and loot. It's okay to protest. You have a right to do that. But when you cross that line into loot, stealing, destroying property, that's no longer your First Amendment right. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Judge, we can hear you.
Okay, I just had to
Hallelujah.
unrequest. Here's what the law is. It's Title 8, Section 1324, etc. And what the governor is doing, what the mayor is doing, what Congresswoman Waters is doing is clearly defined by this old statute that's been around for 60 some years as felonious. It's also conspiratorial. And you loot, we shoot. That's always been the law when it comes to a riot. Um, I said that relative to several other occasions that have popped up over the last several years. You loot, you can be subject to being shot. You loot, they shoot. And this is nothing good. Constitutional or legal scholars to the contrary, they're just historically ignorant. The historical background is Grant sent in the army quite often after the Civil War to restore order. When we had labor disputes up until the first third of the 20th century was over, through presidents all the way up to Truman, sent in the army. You had in 1957, Faubus, the governor of Arkansas, said there were going to be no Negroes setting foot in Little Rock High School as long as he was governor. So Eisenhower sent in 14,000 troops of the 101st Division You have the LA riots in 1965. President Johnson nationalized the National Guard and sent in 16,000 troops to restore order. Sometimes, particularly concerning the behavior of Newsom, the governor, and the mayor, they are disobeying federal law clearly, flagrantly, with apparently great ignorance of the consequences, so you don't need to wait on them to make a request since they are inviting and soliciting a violation of the law. And you have Kent State, where the same thing happened, where on a college campus, the National Guard shot down a number of students. That was back in the mid 60s, and that's been going on. You loot, they shoot. You get out of hand, you start committing arson, and it does not go well for you. So that is the worst kind of situation that can develop, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous for the same people who started harping about 180 people in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021, creating an insurrection when all they did was commit minor acts of trespass and vandalism, and they locked people up for multiple years for conspiracy. That same group talking about cars being burned up, people being threatened, and other folk endangered, federal agencies being interfered with so they cannot do their assigned task. That sounds suspiciously off the deep end when it comes to hypocrisy. The solution is follow the law. So, what is it when somebody says we're going to burn stuff up because you're insisting that we follow the law? And what is the law? The border is sacrosanct. You cannot have a situation where you have a porous border. That caused Rome to fall way back in the 5th century AD because they lost control of their border. You cannot have that. We have the most porous border in the world, and we have too many enemies to allow that. China can put divisions worth of troops, trained troops over here, ready to do what they will without having to parachute in, be helicoptered in, or come in on rubber boats after leaving submarines. You have cartels that are running rampant in this place. You've got that one clown that everybody was all, oh my God, they violated his rights. And now it turns out he's got multiple counts of indictment against him, which the mainstream media is obscuring. They include murder, multiple counts thereof, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, human trafficking, trafficking in minors and females for illicit purposes. They're doing that with Diddy. There was a thing where he's been indicted for causing the deaths of 15 illegals in a truck that he arranged, and they died on the way to the border. So, I mean, he's got thousands of victims in this that don't even include the general American public with what he's done, and yet they want to make this guy a hero. So, what is it? Where did we break down in this appreciation of law and order and this kind of hypocrisy? You've got this thing with the county museum there and the art museum in LA that the mayor is on the board of, and they've shown footage on X where there are huge bags of baseball sized stones that are conveniently placed, concrete blocks, and other things that can be used to foment a riot or as ammunition, so to speak. And nobody gets that something is wrong with Bass being part of this place. So, what are we talking about here? I don't get it. You do this, you're way out of line. I was grown in college when that thing went down in 1965. I good and well know how they restored order after they ran LAPD out of the place. They had Army Jeeps with 30 cal M 1917 Brownings on pedestals in the back with live belts of 30-06 ammo. They didn't play.
Yeah. So when I put you loot, we shoot, I was it was me really talking about the Marines, because that's what they're there for, to keep order. And looting, it is chaos. So my question is, when people are looting and being violent, can the Marines take very aggressive force?
Yes.
Okay.
When what did I say about Rittenhouse? I said they're going to acquit Rittenhouse because he's in a situation where there's a riot going on. And when there's a riot going on, all of those other considerations about being nice go completely out the window. There's an operative presumption that anybody participating in a riot like that is going to do something lethal to you. So you basically have a situation where I'm out here, I'm being lawful, and they're approaching me like they're going to do harm. I don't have to wait till they put hands on me.
All right. We have Exorcist. And guys, if you want to request to come up, please do so. Yeah. Go ahead, Exorcist.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
It's always an honor, your honor, to be in your presence. I appreciate your lives. But I don't think a lot of people understand like what they're truly trying to do with this is I think it's bigger than just these riots, but like the fact that there's so many people and families where all they do is watch legacy news where like other people do a lot more research. And like I had a situation this morning with my boss where he was arguing with his sisters, and both me and my boss were ex-military. We were both 13 Echoes, and they were messaging him pictures. To him, look, they're making the National Guard sleep on the floor, and the people. And he responded back to. I was like, that's what soldiers do. Like that's the first part of basic training. Like you show up, and then everything, the support forms around you. And it's because like so many people are caught up watching the news. They're not looking for more than what the news feeds them. So it causes divisions in families.
I think you're right.
It's almost like a psyop, right?
Exactly. Propaganda. And the new mainstream news media is not fulfilling its First Amendment obligation to keep the public informed as to the law and the true circumstances.
Yeah, yes, yes. That's that. And talk to you. Vacation, so I haven't heard from y'all in a while.
We're glad to have you back.
Yeah, I think that's an important point you made as well regarding the strategy, right? The strategy is not, oh, we need to have these riots so that we're protesting just for, our neighbors. Our neighbors are out here and they just want to live and pay taxes and be the fabric of the community. They're on their way to, medical school or to play their Stradivarius. The tactic is to bring in more people and to force the hand of the Trump administration ultimately so that they can get the upper hand for the optics, right? It comes out of the Saul Alinsky playbook. And I put it in the nest. You guys could check it out at your leisure. It's all designed to do exactly
And
that, which is to win the.
Peter, can I where the dude was explaining that like they don't attack you directly, they attack you from the side to kind of like to make you react. That way they can just march forward with their attacks.
You mean like actual tactics, physical tactics, like flanking
No,
individuals?
but no, mentally. Like they attack a certain aspect to make you react in a certain way to move you to whichever side they want you to move to.
Yeah, they put you in what's called a no-win scenario. What you do, you're going to lose. And they put individuals there on purpose, like the woman who said, my baby was at that protest, like you hurt my baby. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Sorry, that's my one F word. What the F are you doing bringing a baby to a riot, right? It's because you knew that it was going to become a riot from the individuals and the malcontents that were there. And so then when you move on the individuals to restore order, you're now the bad guy because you hurt a baby, right? They're doing this. You're exactly right. They are doing it on purpose to provoke a overreaction. But I don't think Trump is going to buy into it, and I think that Trump's going to do what is necessary, and we've seen he's already doing it. He's doing what's necessary to quell this, right? But we're seeing uprisings and flares in other cities now as well.
Isn't
So
that a little
hopefully,
too well organized, though? Isn't like the fact that, okay, Austin, New York, all these other places, like it almost seems like it's like clockwork and organized.
well, of course, it's organized. You hit the nail on the head. This is very well organized, and that is why I think they're doing the things they're doing, and they're utilizing probably the technology that they're utilizing, geofencing in individuals, finding out, who's who by their phones or communication devices, and then using facial recognition technology, license plate readers, the whole nine yards that they've had for years, and they're going to employ that here. So I think we need to find out the moneyed interests that are behind it. And I think that's where we're going. That, this has been the theme that Trump has proposed since before he got elected, right? That there's an enemy within. Well, now we're seeing the enemy within, and I think Trump's going to expose it in 4K for the individuals that are behind, funding this. And I'll land there.
Lamar, and then we have Michael. I don't know which one was first, but I'm assuming it was Lamar. Okay.
Hey Dana, hey Peter.
Hi, how are you?
Not too
What's up,
bad.
Lamar?
How
Good
you
to
doing,
see you.
Judge Joe Brown? I just want to make a small point. It's a nuanced response to Judge Joe Brown. I'm not saying that he's incorrect, but when the U.S. military, especially now, is operating domestically, there's something called the escalation of force continuum, and within their authorization under NORTHCOM, which is the combatant command that controls support domestically to America. It's a pretty high bar for them to use lethal force to protect property. I think the best chance that we would see of the Marine Corps or the Army National Guard there and employ lethal force is if there was a raid of one of those federal buildings. But I think if you look at the pictures, what you'll find is at least now they're using rubber bullets. But I think a day or two ago they were using pepper spray paintballs. So
Um,
yeah. So
one,
go ahead.
1 second, because he dropped down, and I'm sending him something must have happened. I don't know if he probably can speak.
Yeah, I sent him the invite to come back
Okay,
up.
you sent him a co-host invite.
No, I can't.
Oh,
You'll
well,
need
I
to do
just
that.
did. And so I think he heard you, Lamar. So you may gonna have to repeat yourself. So, but you could speak to the audience.
Okay, yeah, just let me know. And I think, and then the other part of this, again, when stuff like this happens, I reach out to my network that's still in the government. I think Peter's absolutely correct. DHS is tracking, they're trying to find the funding line to this. So what's currently known now is that there are uh, protests for hire solicitations happening on Craigslist, where they're sending out offers for people to come in and get paid by the week. I want to say it was like north of $1,000 for them to come and cause ruckus. But DHS is also aware of the actors that are in quote black bloc, and this is the famed uniform of Antifa. And there's a lot of concern that those more covert actors are using this domestic unrest as cover to do other stuff. So as the police forces and the National Guard and the Marine Corps is worried about this crowd, these other guys can move around and do some other nefarious stuff. So I think it's going to get interesting.
It's not a matter of protecting property. It's a matter of restoring public order. When you have a riot and you have what you are looking at, that is a bunch of people deciding that they are not going to obey the order, are going to enter into a condition of general lawlessness. And because the threat to life, public peace, dignity, and order are so high, it must be restored before anything else happens. Now, if you want to see how this stuff's getting organized, go to the BLM site, Black Lives Matter. And in there, they advertise that they will coordinate, provide communications, and transportation for demonstrations and protest. That's where a lot of this is coming in. And for every dollar that is donated to BLM, 1/3 goes to BLM, 1/3 goes to Act Blue, which is a Democratic Party fundraising organization, and 1/3 goes to a group they identify with as their fellow travelers, LGBTQIA plus. So when you get into it, most of what happens with organization, transportation, getting rocks, stones, concrete blocks strategically laid out so they can be grabbed to do damage, are thanks to the communications and transport efforts of BLM. They should be prosecuted. It's a conspiracy. Now, what is going on right now is nothing new. It's always been this way in the country's history. You have what you're looking at is an insurrection for real. They aren't just going in there and propping feet up on somebody's desk. They're burning up cars. They're burning up buildings. People are getting injured because law and order has broken down.
Judge, I don't know if you saw there was an idiot from ABC News saying, it's mostly peaceful. It's just people out there having fun watching cars burn. That
Yeah, I've
was,
seen that. And you know where you saw this a lot? If you ever watched the NBA playoffs when the Lakers are in them, for some reason on the last couple of games of the series, there's always this spectacle where you're in a helicopter looking down at LAPD as they are directing people out of the parking structures at the Staples Center directly into areas where there's rioting going on, where they're getting pulled out of cars and their cars are getting burnt, no matter whether the Lakers win or lose. And that is a habit. LAPD has been using flashbangs and other stuff to try and restore order, but it's kind of out there that it's a tolerant thing. So the point is California is part of the United States of America. And there is public peace, dignity, and order that the federal government owes to the entire country, as well as to California. And if California wants to abdicate its responsibilities in that respect, then the federal government steps in to protect the citizens of the United States, who are that first, and then residents of California second. And the governor has indicated he will not do anything, which is exactly like Orville Faubus did back in 1957 when he said he was not going to enforce the law. There has been a total breakdown, which is what was threatened, not actually happened in 1957. And what wound up going on is a Republican president, in this case, former five-star General Eisenhower, sent in the 101st, then Airborne, now Air Mobile. And
Judge, how do we get rid of, like, is there a process where the feds could come in and say you're actually involved in the conspiracy by not enforcing the law,
well, not
and
only
then
that,
remove them? And
they're providing
yeah.
official places for these illegals to stay. They're condoning it. They're recruiting them. And I have posted copies of the statutes many times this last week. It's Title 8, Section 1324. Bondi even cited that finally last week when she went and did stuff. And see, Trump's administration doesn't even have to do it. All that has to go down is for the Department of Justice to have some grand juries convened. And the grand juries can operate in secret, conduct their investigation, and return indictments. And from what they have done, Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, they're all liable to be charged. I used to represent people charged with these offenses 45 plus years ago. So I know
Judge, this sounds like
it
racketeering. It
is.
sounds like they could get hit.
It is.
Yeah, why don't we they get blasted with
If
RICO?
you
So
go on my site, my page at Judge
I
Joe
put it in your
House
nest
TV,
for you, Joe.
you
Yeah.
can see the statues. I've posted the things. Just read them. And
well,
it's
Yeah, I put
official
it up in the nest.
capacity or official business buildings. There's no excuse.
all right. I want to get to Michael, J View, Kareem, and El Hotep. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, what's going on? What's up, Dana, Peter, and Judge? How y'all?
Hi.
Um, yeah, man. I've been reading up on the riots or whatever, and I don't know, for some reason, man, it just feel like it just staged, man. It just seemed like a staged thing. And now I'm starting to see Chicago and New York going off on it too. It's like the riots is spreading there too. And man, I I believe like this whole thing can be negotiated some type of way, and I'm not condoning them to riot and mess the city up. I ain't with none of that. You know, it's American soil. But in a sense, I feel them for standing up for themselves. You get what I'm saying? Like all of the people that's being deported, right? Some people are working people that been paying taxes, man. So I mean, it's like I stand in the middle. That's just me.
The law has a saying on that, sir. It's called once a bastard, always a bastard. You break the law and you haven't redeemed yourself, you're still in a law breaking condition. So the problem is we have a border. We have a border patrol. We have an immigration legal a law set up to handle immigration. We have ICE, and we set those up as per statutes. And people are flagrantly violating the law. You cannot allow that because that means you don't have to obey a law if you don't want to. Now the concept comes from what you call um, well, it starts in the civil rights era, and it's called civil disobedience. But it's not really the same thing because you do not have the same kind of situation. You're not talking about somebody saying, okay, Plessy versus Ferguson was dead wrong. You can't have separate but equal. You had a situation where the U.S. Supreme Court declared that that was not equal. And they made a mistake when they issued a ruling in Brown v. Board of Education in 1954 ordering that desegregation occur with, quote, all deliberate speed, unquote. And that was used as a dodge to delay, try to circumvent, and prevent. So in this case, there is nothing out there that justifies what's going on. It's like, just think about it. It's not saying that we can't have immigration, it's just follow the law. We've had people on this venue right here, this X space, in the past several months who have been trying to become citizens for 15, 20, 35, 40 years. And they don't appreciate it when somebody comes in and tries to cut the line. And the other thing is it's a scam. What goes on is two things. The President of the United States is Chief Diplomatic Officer for the United States under the Constitution. And he has unlimited authority to act as chief negotiator, chief diplomat for the United States. The way the law is set up right now is, had Kamala Harris been elected, she could have issued an order retroactively granting the point of asylum to what she would be able to unilaterally declare to be political refugees and backdate it to January 2021. And under the law, when somebody is a refugee or is granted asylum, they automatically become citizens without having to go through the training, the education, or taking the test in 5 years. So what would have happened is next year, when the midterm elections hit, all of these 30 to 50 million folk that have busted off across the border would automatically become citizens of the United States and entitled to vote. And where have they been sent so they can vote, or could have voted had that occurred? Now, when Trump got elected, it just destroyed that paradigm. And a lot of people are upset about it, but they don't care. They want to have power to impose their particular agenda, which essentially means boys in the girls' bathrooms, boys and girls' sports, and pick your own pronoun and such things, which, you know, that's nice in your own habitation, but trying to impose that on the public is another thing. So that's what we were looking at. That was a deliberate intent to try and subvert the law for political purposes.
And if I could just add just one thing quickly to what Michael said, I understand your point, Michael, and I think everything Judge Joe Brown just said is 100% correct. I think what we're seeing now, though, is not new. Judge Joe Brown, I'm assuming your age, sir, so please don't take offense, but you probably remember Larry Grathwohl and Weather Underground, where Larry Grathwohl is a Green Beret who was recruited by the FBI to infiltrate that extremist organization. And as a part of his disclosures, he said that this widespread civil disobedience and disruption is part of a larger plan to usher in their, quote, revolution. And you can still find the videos on YouTube where he talks about this. Goes as far as the professors from prestigious academic institutions such as Columbia, Yale, Harvard, so on and so forth, got together in meetings and talk about what to do with the people that would refuse to be, quote, re-educated. And he said there were plans to, quote, deal with up to 25 million Americans that would not comply. So when I see what we're seeing today, obviously it's not that far. This was talked about in the 60s.
I remember I was grown. I got out of UCLA before the 60s were up. I remember. And when the 65 uprising went down in South Central LA, well, they didn't even call it that then, but in August 65, I was working at the first Project Head Start. So obviously that broke down when the civil order broke down. So we got commissioned by the general for the National Guard unit to deliver food. So I had a pass that, you know, I was sticking out of the window to deliver food and necessities. And I got to get all over LA. And there was a small hill I just parked next to and walked to the center of. And I just did a 360 turnaround and everything was on fire. Heavy smoke, you couldn't even see the sun. Nothing but flames, and everything was in disorder. And yes, people were planning this stuff. You had street gangs pulling off their stunts. Slauson's Viking, Dale Vikings, Bobtown businessmen, De La Soul. They are no longer with the gang panoply now, but it was what it was. 40 some people people died. And then you had a situation where something like this broke down in 1919 in Washington, D.C. Almost 800 people died in a 5-day period where they had a big insurrection in Washington, D.C. But in that case, it was unusual because there was a black veterans conference going on. The black Pullman car porters smuggled in rifles from Baltimore, and the vets got on the rooftops of tenements and they started shooting back. And uh, Woodrow Wilson's administration got real upset, called in literally the cavalry to restore order because more white folk than black folk were getting slain. It's a change. That, by the way, was in the same couple of year period that resulted in what happened in Oklahoma with what's known as Black Wall Street. But I mean, it was a real live mess,
All
and
right.
it ain't pleasant.
J View.
Yeah, I'm here. So I have a question. So do these people that own these shops that are getting looted, do they have the right to protect their shop and their property with lethal force? I don't. California's got
Yeah,
really shitty gun laws, but I'm sure you're allowed to own a gun and you can protect your property because most states in the United States are that way.
they did. In 1992, when they had the Rodney King uprising, they had people stationed on top of commercial buildings and retail establishments. And yeah, when there is a riot going on, all bets are off. You're live targets.
And
Koreans on the rooftop, right?
Yeah,
That's what we saw
then
last
I've heard
time.
one more thing is that the 14th is supposed to be the day that this really kicks off nationwide. Like they're really trying to plan it. Whoever the people that do this, the Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all these people that they're trying to get nationwide stuff going on the 14th. Do we have the right to even our own personal properties? Can we just stop them? You know what I mean? Just shut it down ourselves, and if the government won't do it for us.
I suggest you consult with a criminal lawyer in California. But generally, what the rule is when there is a civil disturbance, a riot going on, anytime somebody is approaching where you live in a threatening fashion, that evokes what in a lot of places has been labeled the castle doctrine. It is likely to result in what California calls a tumultuous entry. And if there's a tumultuous entry to your residence, you don't have to wait. You can go for it right off the bat. Now, I would suggest you still identify and find out what's going on so you don't shoot a relative who's trying to get shelter.
All right. Kareem.
Good
I'm
evening,
not going to
everybody.
give anybody legal advice. I'm just advising on the state of the law. I did graduate from UCLA Law School long ago. All right.
Oh,
And
so
I
good evening.
was a licensed arbitrator for the state of California when I did my show for 15 years, as per a written opinion by the California Supreme Court.
Go ahead, Kareem.
Oh, thank you, Dana. Your Honor, it's always good to hear your voice and get a chance to speak with you. I have two big questions, and I hope they're not too loaded. My first question is, with Gavin Newsom, Mayor Bass, and Maxine Waters, seeing that they seem to be providing some type of material support, can they be charged, or is there a point where they actually can be charged under our domestic terrorism statutes on the federal level?
Yes, it's posted on this site right now. Title 8, Section 1324, etc. Read it. It
Okay.
says a lot of people involved in the LA, California riots, including, just read what the statutes say and you'll get the idea, It specifically does not exempt someone because of their official position, their status, or where this occurs, or whether or not it's in an official building where it goes down. So just read it. It's right there in the Jumbotron. Judge Joe Brown, a lot of people involved in the LA California riots. I posted part of that section.
And Judge, we could use the same mantra they did. Nobody's above the law, right?
Right.
So no one's above the law.
Well, my
And I
second,
will say this, 45 plus years ago, I had some clients I had to defend who got charged with this.
as far as
Yeah, I wanted to.
as far as
Go
these
ahead.
judges who are members of of an inferior court, not part of the Supreme Court, why are they? I'm noticing, especially with some of the cherry picked judges out in California, Washington D.C., etc. Why do they feel that their rulings have more power than they do on the federal level when they're inferior courts and there's already standing federal immigration law going on right now?
Well, they are what they call Title III courts. All right. They're the inferior courts. The Supreme Court only details the U.S. Supreme Court, but authorizes Congress to set up such inferior courts as may be necessary. They vet the cases. The Supreme Court doesn't have the time nor the inclination, nor should it handle every case that is a federal matter, just those that have the likelihood of setting a precedent or clearing up confusion in the law. Now, it can work both ways. Those of us who favor the Second Amendment are very pleased with a certain judge down in Texas enjoining the Biden administration and ATF from enforcing some very weird stuff, contradictory rules on pistols with braces. And those rulings wound up going upstream, but everybody was glad when the district court judge said, Now, the district court judge has that authority. And if the government doesn't like the ruling because it's adverse to their perceived interest, then they appeal it and it goes to one of the 10 circuit courts of appeals. And then, depending upon what they rule, it will wind up going probably to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's called petitioning for a writ of certiorari. In other words, a certification that an important question is raised, and the U.S. Supreme Court will agree to hear the case to decide the question of law. A lot of times these days, they send it back because so many of the judges on both the circuit courts of appeals and the district trial courts are inexperienced and they don't perfect the case. In other words, it'll go up and then the evidence is incomplete. So people would have to speculate on what they're ruling. So the Supreme Court will send it back to get the record built up. What are we talking about? And that kind of thing happens. So it's just the process of it working its way through the system.
Okay. Well, my last question, I'm gonna go on to go time is, do you think anyone has the stomach or the courage to actually launch investigations and just honestly say how many of those officials in these different states like California, New York, that are in the pocket of the cartel? And the reason why I call California into question is because you have entire grow farms in the northern part of California that are cartel run. We're going to overlook those little, possible opium fields they have in New Mexico that incidentally the governor, I think she's governor of New Mexico, has allowed communist China to come in and buy property not far from several legislations over there. Do you think anyone's going to actually do that and actually do something about them? And how you look for it?
Grand
Thank you.
jury, grand jury proceedings are secret. Grand juries get convened and they can direct themselves if they choose, or they can accept direction from the prosecutors. So, in the process of them investigating, they have subpoena powers. They can call witnesses, they can interrogate the witnesses in secret, and they often return secret indictments. So there's no telling who may wind up indicted. I can see that if the law is followed, a whole lot of elected officials, everybody that is advocated for, assisted in setting up, or participated in the establishment of a sanctuary city, would arguably be guilty. Read what's in the Jumbotron, and it becomes rather obvious.
All right. El Hotep, and then we have Rob, John, and Clyde. And I see another person requesting to come up, and then we'll swing around if there's no new speakers. So El Hotep,
Yeah, you can hear me?
We
yes,
can hear
All
you.
right, cool,
yes.
cool. Last week on Sunday, I thought you could hear me, man. My bad. Dana, I didn't that was a cool segment with you and Tim Black. I enjoyed it. I didn't know you knew about Tim Black. But that was nice. I liked it. Um
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he's
yeah,
real nice.
yeah, he a funny guy.
You know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if y'all didn't check that out, make sure you guys go check that out. Because yeah, it was pretty good. Peter, Judge, how's it going? Um
Okay.
Great, man. Great to see you.
Pretty good.
Glad to hear you tonight.
Pretty good. I just wanted to comment on something. I mean, because it was something that Michael had said on Sunday. He said it again, and it's something that's very true. And until Congress or some federal action is taking place, I mean, honestly, this Congress has the potential to do something, but it seems like they're not. They just have the same lack of action, just like the previous Congress. But you do have people in the system that's here, right? That's illegally staying in this country that pays into the system, just like they benefit from benefits into the system, Social Security, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, for me personally, until you see some type of federal action taken, yeah, these raids is cool, but stuff like that needs to be taking place. Some action needs to be done about that. A lot of those resources could be focused on American citizens, but it unfortunately it's not. And it seems like nobody on the federal level is even discussing this. I was listening to a space that Mark was having earlier today. You got shit like humanitarian probation. Nobody discusses that. Nobody probably even has heard of it. But humanitarian probation needs to be stopped. Um, you have a lot of these sanctuary cities where you got people, like I said, they come here, they get food stamps, they get welfare, they get hotel, all of these things. They get a license. You can register to vote. You can be a county worker. So until these actions are taking place, I think you shouldn't really clap your hands and be cheerful for these raids. Yeah, it's cool, but this is what Trump said he was going to do. So this is of no surprise. There needs to be congressional action. That's the thing that people need to focus on, and people need to hold their elected officials accountable to. So until that's done, I ain't cheering for shit.
Well, let me read you what the law says. Harboring, subsection 1324, etc., of Title 8, makes it an offense for any person who knowingly or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, either conceals, harbors, or shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection. All right. Now,
I mean, that may be true, Judge, but how long has California or Los Angeles been a sanctuary city?
uh,
Los Angeles has been a
this
sanctuary city for over
law,
a decade.
this law,
So, I mean,
this
that
law has
doesn't
been in
really
effect.
matter to them.
Yeah, but it does, because what it means is somebody's ignoring the law and not enforcing it. It's
So,
already.
why haven't they been held accountable? I mean, we've
I,
had three mayors.
yeah, I know, but the mayor
You've
of
had Karen
California.
Bass.
Yeah, I know, but the mayor of
That's
Los.
three mayors,
I know
and all three of them
Now,
have
Hotep,
been.
let him respond. Let him
No,
respond.
no, no.
Let him
Okay,
respond.
okay, okay.
what I'm
All right.
saying is the statutes make somebody like Karen Bass expressly complicit in this, committing criminal activity. This has been the law for 70 some years. This is nothing new. Okay, Title 8 United States Codes annotated Section 1324A defines several distinct offenses related to aliens. Subsection 1324, etc., prohibits alien smuggling, domestic transportation of unauthorized aliens, or providing or arranging transportation thereof, concealing or harboring unauthorized aliens, encouraging or inducing unauthorized aliens to enter the United States, engaging in a conspiracy, or aiding and abetting any of the preceding acts. Subsection 1324, etc., prohibits the bringing or attempting to bring unauthorized aliens to the United States in any manner whatsoever, even at otherwise designated ports of entry. It cites another subsection, alien smuggling. Subsection 1324 makes it an offense for any person who, knowing that a person is an alien, brings or attempts to bring to the United States in any manner whatsoever such person at a place other than a designated port of entry or place other than as designated by the commissioner, regardless of whether such alien has received prior official authorization to come, to enter, or reside in the United States, and regardless of any future official action which may be taken with respect to such alien. Domestic transporting, subsection 1324, etc., makes it an offense for any person who, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, transports, attempts to transport, moves, or attempts to transport or move such alien within the United States by means of transportation or otherwise in furtherance of such violation of the law. Harboring, subsection 1324, etc., makes it an offense for any person who, knowing or knowingly or in a reckless disregard of the fact that an alien is come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, conceals, harbors, shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection such alien in any place, including any building or any means of transportation, encouraging or inducing, subsection 1324, etc., makes it a criminal offense for any person who encourages or induces an alien to come to enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of law. Conspiracy, aiding, or abetting. Subsection such and such expressly makes it an offense to engage in a conspiracy to give aid or abet the commission of the foregoing offenses. Bringing aliens to the United States.
We can't hear you. I can't.
Judge, you went. Judge, you went out. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
come
am I back in
and
again?
Peter, can you Peter check your message? Because I sent you a message.
Yeah, he's back in now.
Okay, bringing alien, conspiracy, aiding, or abetting. Subsection 1324 especially makes it an offense, a criminal offense, to engage in a conspiracy to commit or aid or abet the commission of any of the foregoing offenses. Bringing aliens to the United States, or subscribing to their entry. Subsection 13, etc., makes it an offense for any person who, knowingly or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has not received prior authorization to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, to either bring to or attempts to bring to the United States, harbors, shields, gives aid and comfort in any manner whatsoever to such alien, regardless of any official office which said person may hold, which may later be taken in respect irrespective of any action which may be later taken with respect to said alien commits a criminal offense, and it goes on. So you see, Maxine Waters, Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, they're all running afoul of these old statutes which have been enforced time and time again. And they should wind up in front of a court of law charged with various felony offenses. A lot of what they are advocating right now carries a 10-year cap, and some of it carries 25 years. So they're not light offenses, they're serious.
All
But
right.
they counted on the Biden administration to ignore any of these violations.
No, I agree with you, Judge, and you know, I'm not saying that to be ignorant, but everything you just said, I'm aware of. But like I just stated, California or Los Angeles in particular has been a sanctuary city for over a decade, and
Yeah.
none of the mayors have been prosecuted. The city council hasn't been prosecuted. I was listening to a guy, Michael Savage, earlier today, and he said once you go after entities like the ACLU and Southern Poverty Law Center, a lot of this stuff will change, where you have these sanctuary cities feel that they could just override federal government, especially when it pertains to immigration laws. So I'm very aware that that's very true. They're breaking federal law, but again, they're not being prosecuted. You got organizations again, and I don't know how this works, but like the Catholic Church or Catholic charities that help people and get people situated once they cross the border. So yeah, all of that is true, what you just said, and they're violating the law. But then again, there's these organizations, like I said, he said ACLU, Southern Law Poverty Center, they have a way where they could find, and I think it goes down to what we were talking about later on.
Yeah.
You got these Soros funded prosecutors in these cities and these states. So I mean, I'm sure, hey, later on, going into 2026, something might get done, but who knows?
Well, I mean, all it takes is to impanel a grand jury. And I think the Trump administration under Bondi is going to see that that happens.
All right.
And who's the U.S. attorney
So,
over there now? Is it Bill Esseley?
Well, you know, it doesn't have to be in California.
all right. We
You can
have
forum
Rob.
shop.
We have Rob, John, Clyde, and then Retribution, Day, Darren, and Arthur. If they're up there. So go ahead, Rob.
So Rob is the one who allegedly he's saying posted the ad for people.
What ad?
The one I put in the nest talking about looking for toughest badasses in the city. 6,500 to 1,250 a week.
Yeah,
Go
can
ahead,
you hear
Rob.
us?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Who's us?
There's it's a group of fellows. We got a little brotherhood we got together. And look, I mean, if you
Yeah,
go to our
this
Twitter,
is Tom here.
if you go to our Twitter, we have the proof that it was our ad. And frankly, we're just kind of sick of people posting us all over, acting like we did something illegal. There's nothing illegal about posting ads for strong, badass men. You don't know what we did with those men. You have no proof. So I don't get why you're using this as some evidence.
Oh,
Amen,
it can
brother.
be used as evidence with a proper foundation.
Oh yeah, Judge, what's that?
You didn't listen to what I just read?
I fell asleep halfway through.
Well, then that's
Well,
the
that's why you want to
process.
be
America
prosecuted.
goes to sleep. They need to pay attention. You could wind up doing 10 years in the federal penitentiary, which works out.
Hey, a lot of time to
In
sleep,
in
brother.
all respect, Your Honor, men of worth are efficient and concise when they speak.
Yeah,
Are you
and
guys?
you're
This is a. It sounds like a
also, I'm
troll.
I
breaking
don't
it
know
Okay,
who
so
down.
then
I
what are
don't
you
I
so
think.
talking
I
You
don't
about?
know who
know,
that
you
was.
know
That
what
wasn't
you can
me.
do
That
with
wasn't Rob.
yourself, don't you? You know what you can do with yourself, don't you? See, I'm trying to educate ignoramuses who are used to thinking that everything can be explained in a 5 to 15-second soundbite, which just displays their abysmal ignorance. That's why the Republic has slid as it has over the last few years. Now, you go F yourself.
Your Honor,
My
that
apologies,
was sorry,
Judge.
Your Honor, that wasn't me. That's not Rob. That's someone else speaking. That wasn't Rob.
I got you. I got you. I can see who's speaking.
Okay. But yeah, that is just so I've been coming in and out of the chat for a while. But yeah, we're not doing anything illegal. And people keep trying to use that as evidence like we're trying to incite riots, which is not what we've been doing.
One
But what are
time,
you doing with the men? What is your purpose? Are you throwing a freak off? What are you
Said
doing?
strong men. Yeah, that sounds kind of.
see, let
Yeah,
me explain this. One time I was bodyguard for H. Rap Brown, and they returned multiple indictments against him for doing less. And he wound up serving quite a number of years in a federal penitentiary because of it. When you get tried in the federal system, it's a trial by ambush. They're not required to tell you what they're going to do, what their strategy is. They are not required to disclose witnesses or evidence. Now, if you get tried by a state, they generally have to give you the names of the witnesses, their contact information, which either, if known by the prosecution or which should be known by due diligence, is put up there. So with the feds, they can try you by ambush. So when you walk into trial, you may have filed many a motion to find out what's going on, but you don't know until they start putting on their proof. And the only thing they have to give you is what your client put in writing. Or when somebody testifies, they're supposed to give you a copy of their transcript relative to their testimony before a grand jury after they testify.
You're brushing on your mic, Judge. It was a little bit of brush.
Well, I'm not.
Just giving it feedback.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
sorry
a little
about
bit
that.
of brush.
Anyway, that's just the
I-
way things go. So if you get a 10-year sentence, it's 120 months. And under the federal system, you will be effectively in federal custody for 116 of those 120 months. There is no federal parole.
Mhm. All right. So Rob,
Did you want to add anything else, Rob?
because then we got to go to John and Clyde. I don't know what happened to Rob.
Rob, going once, going
Sorry, yeah,
twice.
Okay.
sorry. One
Anything
sec.
else?
I was muted. I didn't want to make any noise while he was talking. Yeah, so I'm just a little confused as to why this is anything we're doing is illegal. We didn't once mention a riot, a protest. We didn't mention anything. Someone jokingly said, "Oh, this sounds like some sort of freak off." What if it is? What if it? What I know, it's very funny. What if that is what we were doing? Now we have to go to prison for that. Now we're insurrectionists because we want to have a little fun. That's ridiculous.
That kind of fun you can't have.
That's actually we can't. Gay marriage is now perfectly legal. We can do whatever we want with our bodies. That's
That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about breakdown of public peace, dignity, and order.
yeah, but
And that's what you're seeing in Los Angeles.
the ad we posted had nothing to do with that.
Well, good for you, but it might be interpreted that way. And that means that you would have to stand trial and they'd have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that's what happened, but you still stand trial.
So now,
Judge,
Rob, are you guys First Amendment auditors? Is that what
no,
this is about?
this is not what this is about at all. Actually, to be 100% honest with you, this ad had nothing to do with anything with the riots at all. It was the ad initially was for something I didn't. It's not for me, but for my employer. It is for something sexual that he likes to do, and that's how the ad got posted. And he didn't want to come out and say, oh guys, don't worry about it. This isn't anything to do with an insurrection. This is a freak off situation we're doing. That's even more embarrassing. So that's why he kind of let it slide. But now it's getting to the point where someone has to speak up, which is why we're.
I mean, I'm looking, Rob, I'm looking at the ad, looking for the toughest badasses in the city, Los Angeles, seeking extremely tough, brave men for a new crew I'm building. We are forming a select team of the toughest dudes in the area. This unit will be activated only when the situation demands it, but you get paid every week no matter what. High pressure, high risk, no room for hesitation. We need individuals who do not break, panic, or fold under stress and are basically all-around kick-ass dudes. Physical strength, speed, conditioning is important, but mental toughness is everything. If you're not the biggest guy in the room, but you're the one people follow when things go bad, that's who we're looking for. We're recruiting those who had already hard, badass, and ready for confrontation when necessary. However, we can train you if necessary. What we're looking for: mental toughness. You keep a level head under pressure. You don't panic. Bravery. You face danger head on. You don't hesitate. This is for a freak off.
Do me a favor. What sentence proves that isn't for a freak off?
Not that it proves. I'm just asking you general questions. I'm saying this mental toughness is for a freak off. You keep a level head under pressure. You don't panic. Bravery. You face. Where's the danger in the freak off?
Why don't you ask
bending you over, that's
danger.
Certain type of guy we're looking for these quote unquote freak offs. Sorry.
All right. Well, listen. We've had enough of the shtick, so we're gonna let you go.
Hey, don't flip on that baby oil, man.
No, don't let him go, Pito.
And
Don't let him go.
D, you wanted to hop in on
Well,
this real quick?
I gotta get to John, then Clyde, and then there's other people
All right.
ahead.
All right. I'll leave him up while we get through it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can leave them up, but John, you're next.
Hello, is this working?
It's working. Welcome.
Hi.
You're now on the radio. Be
Thanks
heard.
for having me. I just want to say that I was, in fact, one of the tough guys who responded to the ad. About 5 years ago, my wife died of cancer after I got back from the Iraq War. And I'm just not gonna
tell your story.
Dude, he's trying to make sure he doesn't laugh.
Joe Brown is spitting out of his
Yeah,
mouth.
these guys are working.
I can't
They're
believe
working
this
as a
so
team.
Yeah, so you want to?
We're killing it.
Melatonin.
We're gonna kill it.
Hold on for a second. Wait, hold on, John, hold on, because you waited.
No, I dropped
Oh,
him.
you did.
I dropped him.
I was going to say
this is a waste of time.
It was. I was going to go.
I don't know who that was. I don't know who that.
Well, this is someone that's applying to your freak off ad, honey. So
they're working together.
Well, I mean, that may be his intent, but there are also other things that can be construed by reading that ad, and it might be soliciting, and I mean, that's a good way to catch a case. Might be interesting.
All right, we have Clyde.
It's a good way to have a Homeland Security investigation case opened on you. So
it is.
Good luck with that, guys.
Clyde.
Go for it if you feel like it, but hey.
Clyde, please don't tell us that you applied for the ad too. Clyde?
No, ma'am, I'm not in that.
Okay.
Dana, Peter, Judge Joe Brown, I appreciate you having me this evening. I just want to go back and say that Judge Brown, back when I was young, I used to watch you, and one of the things I was most impressed with was that you told whoever came into your court, you gave them a very matter-of-fact, point-blank perspective of how the law was and what would proceed. I have watched you through the years, and you have not varied from that, regardless of the situation or what may be going on. You give a clear, concise issuance of what the law says. I've done roughly 30-ish years in the military. I started out as an E-nothing, rose up through the regular Army. Then I did time in the regular National Guard, then the part-time Guard, and now I'm still doing, I've scaled down to the State Guard. I've said all that basically to ask two basic questions, Judge. From my perspective, when I view these illegal immigrants First of all, back in 1986, I never thought we would be here. But under Section 8 of what you were just talking about, the under 1324, one of the things that I thought, maybe I am wrong, but when someone takes in a fugitive or multiple fugitives and they are charged according to that, that typically is a felony, and each person they bring in is an additional charge. With that being said, when a governor or a mayor institutes a sanctuary city to harbor illegal aliens, are they not subject to the felony and each count of each person that comes into that sanctuary city? And number two, is it not a direct violation of their oath of office by allowing people to commit felonies as well as harbor not fugitives, but illegal aliens? And are they not accountable for each subsection of the Section 8?
Technically, I imagine they could be just so charged. I think to avoid a lot of intricacies with proof, they'll just say against public peace, dignity, and order of the United States. That's the way around that. But you're right, they could do that technically for everyone that they can be found to have admitted or sheltered or harbored or concealed or encouraged, etc., etc. It's pretty broad based because they just didn't want it happening.
Judge, under that, when we take into recollection of illegal aliens that have committed murder, does this not also fall back onto the sanctuary cities and the constituents who have upheld these sanctuary cities, and the actual sentencing can be as much as life in prison for one count if there is an illegal alien that commits murder?
Possibly that becomes a matter of aiding and abetting the homicide. That's something I can see a smart U.S. attorney throwing into the mix.
Why do you think they have not taken action? Because this has been
Because
going on forever.
because in American law there is a thing called prosecutorial discretion. The prosecutors usually have widespread discretion on whether to prosecute or not prosecute. And the Biden administration was giving everybody a free pass. And before that, the Obama administration was giving a slight free pass. But I think the Democratic Party set up a specific scheme that they were trying to implement under the Biden administration about letting these people in, declaring that they were refugees and entitled to political asylum so they could be fast tracked to citizenship. And I noticed something else in this context, the census for 2020. This was the sixth one that I had been involved in as an adult. And it was the first one where I was not asked my status as a U.S. citizen. It was the first one where I was not asked the status of my parents relative to citizenship. And what that strikes me as doing is they are trying to build up populations for various areas like California, Illinois, New York, so they could get under Article 1 of the Constitution. It says every 10 years there shall be a census, the primary purpose of which is to apportion representation in the House of Representatives. And they did not want anyone to be declared non-citizen because they wanted this number confused so that California would not lose congressional representation, nor would Illinois or New York, New Jersey, etc. And they could pick up influence in terms of the number of voting members of the House of Representatives that they could have. And that also, by the way, is the sham behind DC statehood. It's you take a medium sized city, DC is not a large city, and you give it 2 U.S. senators and 2 U.S. congressmen, and that's way out of proportion. And if you want the people there to be able to have a voice that can vote in Congress, you simply need to return the District of Columbia to Maryland, let them vote in the Maryland elections, and just keep the Capitol Mall as a much reduced district.
Thank you for clearing that up for me, Judge. And thank you all for having me.
Thank you for your commentary, sir, and thank you for your service.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you for yours as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate you, Clive.
It was I don't see retribution up here anymore. Oh, there he goes. It was retribution. It's supposed to be Day. I don't see Day. Darren D. Is Darren even up here? Yes, Darren is there. Then
Yeah,
D.
Darren's here. Yep.
Okay, and then I do see two people in queue. I guess we'll get to them in a minute. So
I'm bringing Empress up.
Empress. Okay. Well, who is the WWJD? Is that a troll?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't see that. I don't see them requesting.
I do. Let me see. Yeah, Bindle something. It's like a black dot or something. But all right. So retribution.
Retribution.
Okay, first off, thanks for having me. And Judge, I've been a fan of yours for a long time,
Thank you, sir.
but I'm just a dumbass. Okay, and I'll admit it. But what's to stop President Trump from declaring emergency and going in with some choppers out there, putting what you call it, snipers, along with 60s up in the buildings out there, and shooting those enemies of America and illegal felons. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe entering the country illegally is a felony. But and then scooping them up with bobcat buckets and backhoe buckets and loading them on, load their asses on a boat and haul them out to sea and feeding the fish.
Well, aside from matters of political expediency on both sides of the coin, I saw that happen several times in the United States. And don't forget what happened at Kent State, Ohio. So it happens. And when there is a total breakdown in law and order and it just gets way out of hand, it may come to that. I mean, there's one thing that's interesting. Next time you drive down a freeway, take a look at it from a military perspective. It becomes a barrier. And with a scant few troops and, say, some M240s or 249s, you can get a platoon to cover several miles of freeway so nobody can cross over or under the things without being permitted to do so. It's called the National Defense Highway System. Eisenhower designed it back in the 1930s and put it in place when he became president. And that's one of the things that it is there for, which is not just necessarily to transport military personnel and material to critical locations geographically in the country, but also to control egress and access if it becomes necessary to put down civil disorder.
Well, I've heard that after they leave Los Angeles or whatever, they're on Trump's birthday, they're going to scatter out all over the country. And if we just don't do away with them, and get their ass out of here, out in the ocean or wherever the hell they want. I don't know where they all come from, or to be some countries that ain't got hardly any people on it, because apparently everybody's here. But anyway, if we don't get rid of them, do something with them or something, they're just going to keep on burning and causing trouble. And all damage that's done to buildings in a procedure like that, they're going to end up burning down anyway. So I don't know why they just don't call in the military and just take care of it and get it over with.
Well, that may have some political repercussions that I don't think they want right now. I think they are ahead of the game. Let's see if that does anything to tamp down the lawlessness. If it does, good. If it doesn't, then, things escalate. Happens all the time.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and I'll yield at that. And thanks again.
All right, sir. I understand where you're coming from.
Darren.
All right. Hey, thank you all. Hey, and you guys are doing a good thing up here, man, having the speech. It's kind of crazy to me that people like to bring violence in first when we don't realize it's economic. Like, I am in California. I'm a licensed real estate broker here and understanding, but a lot of people forget. For me, my issue is, why aren't we talking about the corporations that have profited substantially off of the illegal immigrations? They're the main people perpetuating this, agricultural and building, like when it comes to construction. So what's the chances of those people actually being persecuted rather than us looking at individuals to harm? Why don't we do some kind of fiscal punishment? And if you really want to bring them here, why don't you pay for them to be here? That's it. I don't want to harm anyone. We need more people. We need more housing. But let's talk about the money.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good point, because these LA riots, when it all kicked off on Friday, they entered a business that hired illegals. So it's like, yeah, when they round up these illegals, is this said business or corporation getting fined or citation or anything? Nothing isn't happening to the business. And I noticed that, especially under this Trump administration, they're cracking down on illegals, but they're only slapping the wrists on businesses and corporations, or not even that. It's like as if they're he's not putting any fault on corporations. And we all know that the Trump administration, they are about their corporations and about their businesses and entrepreneurships. So maybe he's cautious to penalize corporations, but those, I would say, that is the, outside of having an open border, they are the second biggest culprit when it comes to bringing in illegals. So yeah, I agree with you on that, Darren.
So my question would be for Judge too. Like, how do you feel we are ever going to hinder business? A lot of times they like to hang out the solo individual, but I assure you, the fact that businesses have been entities since the Powell document and all this, the businesses are far more powerful than these individuals you think who are putting up these illicit wannabe freak off ads and dumb things like that. And especially more people doing that, they're not that educated nor capable. But why we need to really hold businesses accountable if we want to talk about issues of immigration and why they can't enforce things, because it's so hard to enforce laws against a corporation, especially when they're the ones paying all this money, helping you, scratching the backs of governments, putting certain politicians in their positions. So that's, what do you guys think? Like, how are we going? Like, I don't think punishing individuals, shooting at random people is the route. Somebody has to hold businesses accountable.
The concept is known as public peace, dignity, and order. And if you read indictments, they generally say, whether they're state or U.S. government indictments, they say on or about so and so, such and such, the defendant did, against public peace, dignity, and order, commit the following acts. Now, the first thing a government owes its citizens is maintenance of public peace, dignity, and order. When it gets out of hand, the first thing that must be done is restore the public peace, dignity, and order, and then talk about it. You can't let things degenerate to a massive riot with great property destruction and the risk of loss of life. So you get the sense of it with the Texas Rangers, for example. One riot, one ranger. The ranger just came in, pulled out his artillery, and started shooting people until the rest of them got the idea that they ought to settle down. That's been the way they've handled riots for a long, long time, and that's still basically the way it is in this country. Most people have forgotten about it or haven't heard it discussed, or what is put out there is basically just ideologically motivated rather than factually motivated with trying to enlighten the public on what their laws are. So I would just offer that. And if you're going to engage in civil unrest, you have to accept the peril of the circumstances in which you place yourself.
Anything else, Darren?
I mean, no, it's pretty straightforward, but it's just such an ironic loophole to me that if you are smart enough, which I do understand ignorance is still abundance in America and especially around the world, if you're smart enough to start a corporation, hire people, and then exploit the game, you're essentially a god here. So it's crazy that the government will never be able to hold these people accountable. So I recommend if you're an individual, work hard, get your stuff together, and make yourself incorporated first before you act dumb.
Okay, here's one thing just directly to that. The 15th Amendment was designed to deal with the situations concerning former slaves. What the U.S. Supreme Court did in the late 1870s and early 1880s is they used it to protect the new creature known as the corporate entity, which has been held to be a fictional person. So you treat the corporate entity as though it is a person. It is represented through its officers. But what winds up happening is you have this fictional creation that is held responsible unless somebody can come up with a very direct line of involvement between the corporate officers and the corporate entity. It's kind of hard to find any specific person or persons to prosecute. It's known as an inchoate, INCHOATE person, a theoretical one that has to be manifested through a real live person or persons who aren't really the primary subjects. So it's a fiction that got created by those who wanted to set up limited liability, matching what happened with Crown Edicts in England, where they had LTDs, limited companies, limited liability companies. It's
Judge, inchoate is is a conspiracy type of offense, right? It's an inchoate, like an inchoate crime.
well, it can be a conspiracy, but when you're talking about inchoate, what you're really talking about is the thing itself is a fiction. You say a corporate
So,
entity is an
okay,
inchoate person, which means they are a fictional person.
right. So it's created. It's a created entity. It's not something that's real. It's something that's created out of
Yeah,
somebody else's imagination.
yeah.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I top one question with that
Oh,
though? Because you're right 100% on that. Like how they pivoted the money. They didn't want to pay people money. So they said, let's make a corporation. They'll never catch the money. But how do we deal with this? Is like younger people in business, other people, what would you say in the long term? Do you think the technology is catching up to where we can hold corporations, businesses accountable in the future? Or is it just going to keep staying the same with entities, these things having the same power as an individual, but you can't imprison them? You can't really do much. They can dissolve themselves, move. How do we deal with it?
Well, wait till we get to one of the logical extrapolations. If a corporate entity is in fact a fictional person with all of the rights of a real person, why can't they vote in an election? That's going to be the real mess because nobody thought this through 100 some years ago.
Okay. All right. D, then Empress. I don't see Torin up here. Then I'll swing back to Exorcist. And
It looks like D dropped as well.
oh,
I don't see her up here
oh,
either.
D drop. So I'm gonna go to Empress, then I'm gonna swing back to Exorcist. Anybody run a request to come up, do so now, because we're gonna be shutting it down in about 40 minutes. Peter got a long day tomorrow. So do I. So do the judge. And I'm not gonna be up here to midnight. So request now or never. Um
Or
You can
forever hold your
drop
peace.
me. I'm done. You can drop me down to a listener or whatever if you want to make room or whatever. I'm cool. Thanks, Judge, for your answer on that. But yeah, you can
All
drop
right,
me down.
sir.
okay.
Appreciate you. We'll leave you up right now because we got a ton of space, and if we need space, we'll drop you. But you're welcome to stay up.
Go ahead, Empress.
Good evening, Dana, gorgeous and handsome Judge Peter. How are you this evening?
I'm
I'm
good. How are
sipping
you?
on some tea. I'm finding it very bizarre, but I'm not surprised. Dogs have not been sicked on none of these people. Water hoses like they used to do in the 1950s and 60s. No bullets, no rubber bullets have been shot at none of these people. No spraying of tear gas on these people like they did to the blacks in the civil rights movement. And as my grandmother was saying, because she'll be 101 in next month of July, it's very reserved. They can walk up and break glass to all of the businesses, no repercussions, no harsh violence from the police. I noticed that it's very contained. There's no anger expressed at these people, no calling them racial slurs. And I'm not surprised, but it's interesting how that anger is always put on the black community when we protest when we have been done wrong. But those that are illegal get to walk freely. They're not locked up. Their children are not harmed. No knees put on none of their necks. They get to wave their own flags. Nothing is done. I see it as a hypocrisy. Shows you the white supremacist mindset even in all of your polices. And we understand that as foundational Black Americans. But I like to ask the judge, being that you've been around quite a few years in practicing law, why is no dogs, guns, tear gas being used towards none of these migrants who are literally tearing up and they flipping over police cars? None of them, none of the officers are ever saying they fear for their life because these people are breathing. They fear for their life based on their race. They fear for their life based on their height or how their physique is made. I find that very bizarre. And at the same time, I see on a spiritual level, we flame fire.
Well, if I can answer your question, Peter.
Empress, your phone is going in and out. Just mute up for a second because the judge is responding.
Okay, what I was going to say is if I might be permitted to bring something up historically. What you have is a great parallel to the beginnings of the U.S. Civil War. A lot of stuff was going on in the South that was totally illegal, but the Southern states weren't doing anything to crack down on it and encouraged it. A lot of stuff is going on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and other places that's clearly illegal. But the state entities, state governors, mayors of major American cities are actually committing the crimes associated with these things because they're trying to encourage these things for political purposes, just like before the Civil War. So what happened is the Civil War came about because nobody cracked down on these things. Nobody from the federal government moved in and said, hey, enough is enough. And that's kind of what you have right now. We have studied our history sometimes, but over the last 50 years, we haven't had any of these events that occur. And we call stuff like January 21st, where January 6th, 2021, where you have 180 people, they call that an insurrection. Now you've got tens of thousands of people out actually burning stuff down. People are getting put in physical danger, and that's supposed to be fun. They're having a good time. They're peacefully protesting. Come on, that looks like something out of Nazi Germany in 1933 or 34. That looks like something out of fascist Italy a little before that. That looks like something that you might expect to come out of the People's Republic of China, or that came out of Russia when it switched over to being the Soviet Union. That's not good for America.
If I might
Judge, I
say
have a question.
something, ma'am, I look at you as a woman or a man and a fellow American until you give me reason to believe otherwise. That's the way I am. I can't speak for everybody, okay? But that's the way I am. I got my best neighbors here are not the same color as me, and one set of them come into the country and done it right. Took them 7 years, but they are legal. And if you got a problem with them, you got a problem with me. My other neighbor is black. If you got a problem with him, he's the best neighbor I got. You got a problem with him, you got a problem with me.
Judge, I know you spoke to this earlier as well. What would it be? What would be the procedure if citizens in local communities wanted to basically set up and have a militia to protect the community if rioters and people started coming through their communities? Could they, lock down blocks and basically say no in and out unless you're part of this community until things are quelled with, either a federal force or National Guard? And what happens if there's not enough people? What happens if we're spread thin with all of our soldiers at different places throughout the world and there's nobody to protect the homeland? Can U.S. citizens and potentially, like we see in Compton with these gang members, say this is a no-go zone and it's zero tolerance? Like we're going to execute you on site if you try to do some shit.
Look at what the Korea community did in 1992 with the Rodney King riots. To give a little
Okay,
thought, it's out there.
fair enough.
And the other thing is, what you posit is a real live consideration. When you waste your military resources on social agendas, you take away from its ability to fight and protect the country, and you run into just the problem you're saying. When you've got a presidential administration and a matching set of members of the same party in Congress, and they allow in between 30 and 50 million people, you have to understand that when we fought World War I, that was the extent of the whole German population. So you've let in that many people without control, without real information, and you've turned them loose inside the United States. They don't have to invade, they're already here.
Right.
Yep,
So here's the thing.
it's crazy.
I see D came back up, but I want to swing the Exorcist because he had his hand up for a minute now, and then I'm gonna come to D, and then pop out
I,
Dolo
I,
and Judge Sarah.
I want you to come back to me, Dana, because I still want to ask this question,
I'll come back to you.
and I didn't get it
All
answered.
right, I'll come.
Why is it?
One second. I'll come back to you. Um, So I'm gonna go to Exorcist, then D, pop out, Dolo, Judge Sarah, and anybody want to request to come up. You have 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes, I'm not bringing no new speakers up. So go ahead, Exorcist.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. So, upon y'all asking the question and talking about like the cars burning, like it made me think about one of Elon's previous posts and also what's happened within the last week with Trump and Elon. And he posted something about Waymo and how they put out their trial runs for the driverless cars in both LA and Austin, two of the places where they're having these riots and having these cars set on fire. What are the chances of this possibly being corporate sabotage and taking out Elon's only competitors?
I seriously doubt that's what's going on. I think it is more of the same group of what we used to call tree huggers who decided that their cause is so righteous that they can disregard law and order and get violent about it.
Well, my thing is like if especially that's his last post, and he's kind of like it seems like he's chuckling about the fact that his main opposition in that current field is being taken out by these things happening and how organized that they're happening. And I know I could be a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but like it's kind of ominous that those posts would come out on a day like
Okay.
today.
It's been out there for a while. It's been out there for quite a while. The problem is this: the driverless car is chauffeuring some passengers along. And as it's going down a semi residential street, a 3-year-old child runs out from between two parked cars. Generally, the program that operates the driverless vehicle will protect the passengers. So it sacrifices the 3-year-old child to protect the passengers. Now, most humans, if they saw this same scenario, would say, whoa, wait a minute. We're all adults. We can't countenance running over this child. So we sacrificed our interest to protect this child. And right now, they have not developed AI to that extent where it can make those kind of decisions. So some people are very, very much opposed to these things being allowed to operate on the streets. Now, there is a way to deal with it and a way not to deal with it. And part of the whole thing is confusion because the same people that are advocating let's go burn up some cars because we think that these people need to let off steam because it's not fair that we control our borders and keep them out, are also the same people that promoted the driverless cars in the first place by passing the statutes in the state legislative bodies that allow them. And it's kind of a conundrum because it doesn't fit. It's not logical, it is not coherent, and it creates a big mess because too often when somebody has an agenda, that agenda will compromise all forms of logic, rationality, reasonability, objectivity, and detachment. And you get bad results.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Can I? So, how do you feel about through today's events and yesterday's
Well,
events that being uh, Elon's last
Well, it
post,
may be his last
laughing kind
post,
of?
but I mean, this has been going on for some years where there have been sporadic attacks on these driverless vehicles. by ordinary people who don't like the idea.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Now, it may be a sophisticated corporate thing. I don't know, but I don't suspect that, because that leaves open the door to too many negatives.
All right. D.
Hey guys. Hi everybody at the space. So I just want to reiterate that I think Trump has been handling this pretty well. I don't think that he hasn't really done much. I think it was like what 3 or 4 days ago he authorized thousands of National Guards, and then the next day he ordered another couple of thousand. The Pentagon ordered 700 active duty Marines who are currently there, and that hasn't happened since like 92. So I definitely think Trump is, taking control of the situation as much as possible. I wouldn't go as far as saying, why isn't this being done? Why isn't that being done? I definitely feel that Donald Trump is handling this situation, and there will be a lot of arrests even after these protests and everything has calmed down. They're going to come for these people just like they came for the J6ers after the fact. So I definitely think that we're speaking a little too soon on that. I wouldn't say, why isn't this being done? Why isn't that being done? I feel that Trump is going to give these people a lot of pressure.
Grand jury investigations take time. So do ordinary criminal investigations.
All right. Pop out. Pop out still here? No.
No, pop out dropped.
Dolo dropped too?
Dolo. No, Dolo's
Okay,
here.
go ahead, Dolo.
Hey, how everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. So yeah, I just want to start off with this saying that I think
Can you
these
speak up a
spaces.
little bit more? You sound far away.
My fault. You hear me better?
Are you on a speaker?
I can hear him now better.
You hear me better now?
Yes.
If you could get off a speaker, I think that'd be better. Or
Yeah, if you could talk right into your phone.
You just go to the next person. I'll speak next thing. My fault.
are you on your car speak? You on your car speaker?
Yeah, I have my headphones on.
Oh, but go ahead. Just go ahead. Go ahead. No, did he drop down? Oh, go ahead.
No, he's still
I'm
there.
still
Go
here.
ahead, Dolo.
Yeah, real quick. I was just calling to question. Really, I like to talk to the older generation sometimes, just to try to see where their heads is at as far as with the information they're being fed, because typically they're getting majority of the information from the legacy media. So I talked to my grandfather today. He's about 78, black man, former veteran, all that, and just kind of asked him how he felt about that. So long story short, I'm seeing that there's some type of democratic talking point that's being fed to people right now, as far as just with Trump trying to abolish the 14th Amendment, and with doing that, he's going to send, prisoners, black prisoners, to jail or whatever. So, I just wanted to see if you guys could speak on that real quick.
How did black folk get to be front and center in this situation that involves so much of a south of the border set of circumstances? See, that's just the propaganda that's being put out by the traditional mainstream media, because they are part of this agenda too. Uh, this thing that we had somebody on talking about looking for the toughest badasses in the city of Los Angeles. This is a call for a militia. And they're trying to formulate something so, as he put it, it's a rainbow thing. I did not know that until he said that. So this is what happens when you let people get in place and you rely on them, and they are operating on the basis of by any means necessary. Doesn't work too good, too well.
Right. So yeah, just heads up that that's another talking point they're coming with is, he's going to abolish the 14th Amendment just so, black Americans, black
He
people in
can't
general in jail
abolish
can
the
go to.
14th Amendment. He
Exactly.
doesn't have the authority.
Exactly.
That the only way that would happen is for there to be an amendment doing that, like they did with the one that made alcohol illegal, prohibition.
And that's 2/3 the Congress to get it put forth, and then 3/4 of the states have to ratify. So
That's just that's just ignorance, and it's ignorance compounded by
I
the
was
ignorance
wondering when
of
you
the
going to
public.
say that. You so nice, Judge.
Well, it's ignorance is lack of knowledge and information. So you've got a large portion of the public that's been, and I don't want to get on people who like sports, but we spend entirely too much time all day long, Saturday, Sunday, and most nights of the week watching NFL, MLB, NBA, and not paying attention to what's going on around and about you.
All right.
and that's by design,
Yeah,
right?
as Julius
Yeah.
Caesar said, give them bread in circuses, feed them and entertain them, and they won't care what their betters do when it comes to governance.
And then this is and I just want to say this quick thing, and I'm gonna go to Judge Sarah and then Empress. Darren, I see your hand up. I'll swing back to you, and then that'll be it. I just want to say this though, and this is why I have a problem with the public school system, particularly in certain states and districts and stuff like that. When they don't emphasize history, they don't talk about civics. They don't talk about the U.S. Constitution. Because if you say who said this famous quote and what does it mean, give them bread and circus. Um,
Circus.
give them what?
Give them
Bread and
in
circuses,
Latin, it's done pane e secelsie,
Give them bread and
circuses,
circuses.
plural.
plural.
Give them bread and circuses, and then what?
What happens is that they won't care what their betters do when they get ruled.
Right. And that was Julius Caesar. So they're not they don't they're not teaching that. They're worried about creating
Your
robots,
now,
and they don't even teach them in cursive. And an educator told me, someone who works in the school system was like, well, how is that going to help them if they don't know how, if because they know how to write in cursive or scripts? I'm like, you need to learn how to have a signature. You're going to print your name on important documents. So I just found, like I said, I said philosophy, history, public policies, constitutions. That's Dewey Decimal System. Go into a library, know how to do proper research. Well, they took libraries out of all the schools in the state of California. They took libraries out of the school. And he said what they have is it's like a data center, like you could say a search engine room or whatever, and then whatever you need to research for a research paper, you Google it. It's like you Google it or you type it in or whatever, and then it comes up like Google. And I'm like, are you serious? So yeah, it's like that pisses me off thinking about the education system. But go ahead, Judge Sarah.
Hey, Dana, Peter, thank you so much. And I'm so glad I can ask you this question, Judge Joe Brown. It's so awesome to have you here weekly. What I want to ask you about is two things I want to ask Dana. I want to ask him about Gavin Newsom's lawsuit against Trump administration, and then I want to address what the gentleman said about the 14th Amendment. Judge Joe Brown, what I want to know is what part of the budget is Gavin using to file these suits in court against the Trump administration. So the first thing my question is, where's the funding coming from? As Californians, can we file a similar suit against Gavin Newsom for misappropriating funds using California government to finance a political vendetta against the administration? So again,
Yes.
my main question is,
Y-
where is what part of the budget? And as Californians, can we file something against him and that he's not taking care of California? I mean, we have many needs, the fire, different things are going on here. And instead of him addressing the needs of Californians, he's doing a political battle with the Trump administration, which I think is misappropriating of funds. But I don't know where those funds
Well,
come
let
from.
me give you
So
this.
maybe you can help me with that.
You have ballot initiatives in California and also recall provisions. If you
Mhm.
get a sufficient number of signatures, you can get a recall of Newsom put on the ballot.
Okay, but I think that I understand
In
that
other words,
that's one
you
of
don't have
that's
to have a
remedy. That's what
reason.
you're calling as a remedy. But I want to hold him for civil liability. I want to
Well,
take him to
you have
court.
to, the point is
Hmm.
that you have to have a just cause, you have to have an adequate cause of action.
He's misappropriating funds.
Yeah, but
He
he's
has a
got the,
political vendetta
hold on a second,
against the president.
hold on. He
Sure.
has the authority to use his discretion.
Hmm. And as a cat,
That
I'm the
he
people.
does not use it well does not necessarily mean you win a lawsuit.
I
It's
ain't say
only
when.
when it is inappropriate. But you do
It
have the
is inappropriate.
well, it's not inappropriate in terms of being forbidden by law. It just isn't wise, which gets you into the California initiative thing. You can get it on the ballot.
Hmm.
That's
I'm
how.
not interested in getting on the
Well,
ballot. I
then
want to
you're
go
not
in court.
interested in
I
relief.
want to take him to court.
You can't take everybody to court for everything.
I'm not taking everybody to court for
No,
everything,
you
Judge Joe
can't
Brown.
even
I'm
look.
just asking
Listen
you,
to me. Listen to me.
I am listening.
The
I'm listening.
Democrats messed up when they tried to take Trump in and impeach him for
Hmm.
what they thought were ill-conceived judgment calls. You can't do that. You can only do things that deal with violating the law. He's not violating the
I
law.
think
He's
okay.
not
Can we
using
discuss that?
sound discretion. No,
I understand.
I'm not going to
Would you allow
discuss it.
me to argue that, Judge
I'm
Joe
not
Brown?
going to argue it
No,
because
you're not going to allow me to argue it, or you
it's
just well,
not.
if you're
What are you
not, it's
going to?
fine.
What's the purpose?
If you're not going to allow me to argue it, I
What's
can
the
move on.
purpose?
I'm just
What's
asking you.
the
If you're not going
purpose?
to allow me to argue, I'll move on. And
Look what you
I want to say this. Okay, you're not going to allow me to argue because I'm not going to keep
Stop
you up with
doing
that.
what you're doing.
No, you're not allowing me.
You're doing what the far left does. They
No, you're not
obviously.
allowing me to argue, and I'm okay with
The
that. I want to go to
point
the second
is,
question.
look,
I'm okay, Judge.
what do you want me to argue with you
No, you
about?
won't let me speak, and that
Well, I'm trying to
a
tell
lot of that
you.
goes on in the judicial system in California.
I
Trust me, I know.
understand it. I went to law school at UCLA 50 plus
And
years
you will
ago.
not allow me to
Now,
argue, sir.
listen to me.
You
All
fail.
I'm telling you is whether you
You are the
like it,
judge, but you will not let me argue my point.
whether you like
And
it, what are you
black
doing?
people
What you
don't
do?
know that we can argue our point. They
Well,
don't know that. I know this. But I want to move on to the 14th Amendment as I could.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I don't understand how she was talking over the mute button and we muted. Peter muted for 30 seconds and she kept talking. It's one at a time.
She's been doing brujeria. She's got some matter of sorcery that she's able to get through.
Yeah, and
She's
I'm not in
special.
the
She's
mood
got
to,
it.
and I ain't feel like touching that mute button. So I'm glad Peter did it. But one at a time, whatever you disagree or you want to push back, let him finish. Then you talk, and then when you finish talking, then he'll talk, and then we're going to the next speaker. That's just how it is.
Because
So
what you're doing is ignorant because you're not getting anywhere. You're not listening to the point. The point is all of that sounds good. Give me a law that permits it. I'm trying to tell you when you ask me that this is what the law generally says when it comes to constitutional issues or the exercise of authority. Now, you can go file an action in all the courts you want. If you get in, fine. Maybe you made some law. But I'm not going to sit there and take time to discuss it with you when, from my perspective, it's like arguing something that ain't there. You
Okay,
wish it was
you know
there.
I respect you, Judge Joe Brown, so I won't move forward. But I
No,
do want to address the issue about this gentleman saying the 14th Amendment. Sir, what Donald Trump is trying to do is to reinstate the 14th Amendment, what it was intended for. It was intended for newly freed slaves in 1866 to make sure they were equal and free. That's what the 14th Amendment is about. So what he's trying to do is reinstate it that it's for Negro people. I appreciate you, Judge Joe Brown. Thank you. It's always great
well,
to talk
I
to you.
have no
Even if I don't agree,
problem.
even if you want to give me a hard time and not listen,
I
I
won't have
respect you.
any
So I'm gonna
problem.
move on. Thank you.
I don't have any problem with your last contention. I think that's what he's trying to do, bring it back to the center.
Yes, and I was very aware of that's what he's trying to do with the 14th Amendment. I was just stating that, that's a tactic that the left is using right now in the legacy media with the conversation I had with my grandfather today. That's basically, he was just, regurgitating what CNN and all that says. So I was just seeing if you guys were aware that that's the new thing that they're
Well,
saying
yeah,
right now.
yeah, I agree with you. You're 100% accurate on that. And it's just this mainstream media has become an engine of propaganda. It is coming from the same place as the guy that uh, posted that thing about they want the toughest dudes and paying them 12,000 a week, whether they have anything to do or not.
Yeah, Dolo, I agree with you, man. That's why the ratings for legacy media are in the toilet, and they're going to continue to go down. No one's anybody of substance and anybody who's educated really is getting away from it. And I get most of my news through citizen journalism on here, and I find it's a lot more truthful than what we see on the propaganda machines on the TV.
Could I
So.
ask you to do something? It be for your own edification. When you look something up on Google, screenshot it, you will probably find that if it's something controversial, it'll be changed before the week's out. And they will even give you a notice. This was last changed 12 hours ago. And they continuously update this stuff. Most people think Google is sacrosanct. Same thing with Wikipedia, not realizing that anybody who just logs in, puts their email account up there, can make unlimited edits to what is being said in the article. And then once you post it, you're out of there. And until somebody else changes it, it'll stay.
All right. I'm gonna swing back to Empress and then Darren, and Darren, you'll be the last person, and then we'll close it out, and the judge can give his final remarks. Go ahead, Empress. What was the question that you wanted? A statement you wanted to say?
Thank you for bringing me back, Dana. You know, this is the year of the snake, and it's a bizarre but not surprising. Many of these individuals that is here illegally came under the Biden administration, some even before. Yet you'll wave your flag of Mexico, destroy property, and America allows you the freedom to do that when you couldn't do that in your own country. And I'm still on the fact, no tear gas, no bombs, no dogs have been sicked on these people. When it was George Floyd, dogs, rubber bullets, violence, gunning down innocent men, women, children during that, protest, and it was peaceful. Yet these people are destroying property, have not even been touched. So what I see is the hypocrisy. And I also see that the police in LA, New Jersey, Pennsylvania are very selective who they want to use violence. When you're turning over vehicles, busting out the windows, no guns was used. If blacks was protesting, they would eliminate them right then and there. It wouldn't be a mediocre excuse. Oh, well, the president is trying. It would have already been done. So, with this year of the snake, it shows you the underhand lies of it all. I heard on social media, and I sent this to you, Dana, many cities like New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Tennessee, Texas, California, Minnesota is going to be turning up this upcoming weekend and thereafter. I can only wait to see what will be the outcome. I already have what I see coming, but I want to see that come in Detroit so we can show you how we operate. Whole different, measure when you look at the demographics and the population, but it's betrayal under this sign of Gemini. You're going to see a lot of lies and backstabbing and backbiting. None of these people are called the woke thugs. None of these people are labeled that, but that's what you would label the Black community. And it's interesting because now we get to see how the white supremacist mindset is in 2025. I'm looking at pictures of my relatives who was in the 67 riots here in Detroit, making history. I'm looking at when they come out in army tanks, shooting up towards innocent men, women, and children, and that's not happening to illegal migrants. So everybody gets what they voted for, and long as you accept that, that's okay by me.
Can I
But
respond
if
to her, Dana, right quickly?
I'd like to ask you, would you be okay if they went out there with choppers and gunned everybody down out in L.A. and then hauled them out to sea? Because that was my previous
Well,
question.
he was there able to jump in. Can I ask her? Can I address what she just said? Because I think it's very important that she understands what's going on. And so what you see is going on. They're handling this with kid gloves, ma'am, because this is what Democrats do. They socially engineer your thoughts, what you believe, and what you think. They're handling this with kid gloves because they know they're trying to make my president look bad. Like this gentleman came in here with the crazy 14th Amendment comment. Democrats are doing this purposely because they're trying to malign my president and make him look like a racist and this, that, and the third when he's not. He wants to make America great. And he's trying very hard to make America great. And it's resistant. And it has a lot to do with ignorant liberal people who lack an education and they don't understand what's going on. They are very mindful that we are watching, and Democrats do this. This is what Democrats do. They have paid protests and they
It has to be one at a time. Empress, when she's finished, you can respond.
I'm done. I just, you know what?
All
I'm
right.
here for the
So then
liberation of
let
black
Empress.
people, and
So
I
then
just don't.
let
I have a.
Empress respond. Then let Empress respond if you're done. Go ahead, Empress. Give it a second. It's a double mute.
She an agent because I've already stated what I meant about that 14th Amendment thing. I wasn't trying to do no Democratic talking points.
Empress, you still there?
Okay, here it is. It's not about whether you are Democrat or Republican. That's not even the point.
That's what's going
I'm
on,
watching.
ma'am, and I'm apparently you're not aware what's
No,
happening.
Sarah, you need
Apparently,
to
you lack
mute
the
up.
education to
You
see
need
what's
no,
actually
no.
happening.
See, this is what I'm not doing. You spoke, and she was quiet, and I told her don't jump off her mic. So now she's speaking, and you're gonna be quiet. And if you can't, I'm gonna drop you down a listener. Go ahead,
I
Empress.
apologize. I have a low
Go
tolerance
ahead,
for
Empress,
ignorance,
and
and
then
I
I'm
don't want to
gonna go to
disrespect your space,
Darren.
Dana. I just
Go
can't do
ahead.
the ignorance. I just
Why the fuck you gotta just keep talking? Like, just shut up. Like, it's like every time. I don't need an explanation on why you're about to be quiet. I can't even go a whole space when she up in here without cursing. Go ahead, Empress, and then I'm gonna go to Darren.
Thank you, Dana. I'm so sorry. I certainly is not interested in nothing this woman has to say. My point is this. I less about Republican. I certainly can care less about Democrat. I don't care about either or, because when you think about it, they both have the same agenda. They just go about it differently. Snakes react in different ways, but it comes to one common denominator. Still on the point, you will not see unless something changes. Anything can change. I see them being shot. I don't see them being hosed, tear gas, like I get to look at my aunts and uncles who had got law degrees in the 50s and in the 60s during the civil rights movement. See, I'm looking at it as I'm talking to you, and I'm looking at seeing water hoses going on them 1964, 65, right here in Detroit, protesting about Woolworths. So it's not about making anybody look bad. I'm noticing the reserve. When I'm looking at cars being flipped over, set on fire, but no bullets, no goons, no calling them racial slurs like you've done the black community, wow. But I'm not surprised. It is the year of the snake. You'll always see a serpent, and you'll know it by their actions and their deeds. They're doing it very courteous. Now, these people were saying, I feel threatened. When the businesses' windows are broken out, police are not coming in military gear, armed army trucks shooting at them, unlike the civil rights movement, unlike Rodney King time, unlike George Floyd. I don't see none of that. They just let them come up, destroy anything, no arrests. They're not doing it like they did in the 60s, even in 2020. That shows me it's outright racism. You choose your hatred, your hostility towards the black community. But anything that is non-black, you will protect it. You will not say nothing. You will allow all kinds of disrespect. This is a wonderful lesson. Let you know the 92% gonna mind their business.
All right, Empress, you gotta land your plane because I gotta move on to Darren and then close out the space.
All right, darling, have a blessed week. I'll look for you on Thursday. I hope you're feeling better. Peter, have a great evening. Judge, I love you. Have a blessed week.
Thank
You
you.
too, Empress. Stay safe out there.
All right. See you Thursday. Darren.
Hey, how's it going, people? どうするでも今、ちょっと喋ってる。後で、もらいます. Oh, sorry about that. The wifey jumping in this thing. Hey, first off, thank you guys for holding the space and things. One, I would like to even parlay on what she was trying to say about, like, first off, you have to understand that we, as Black people who are diaspora, we don't have a community to go back to. Waging war against us is a test in the whole psyop. I think this country is just a bank with a military, and that's what we do. But so you can't compare us to anyone else, because the Hispanic community, don't forget, is a substantial portion of white. Most of our laws, the Guadalupe Hidalgo treaties, all these things were written in Spanish first. So there's a different way you deal with people when they have a nation underneath that has substantial people. So that's one thing. But like, me, I'm always bringing it back to the numbers, man. I just want to say we need to be coherent and hold ourselves and each other accountable. What, like, with me, when we're debating this whole immigration things, if we were say we were able to get everyone out, we said, hey, illegal immigrants, get out. I'm telling you, this is going to collapse the corporations first. It's not the individuals. It's not us that benefit. We benefit on the back end, but we have to pay them money, and then they profit, and then that's how it goes. but it's usually major, like Tyson, like Monsanto, all these major corporations need workers who they can underpay, they can exploit, and they can keep pushing their corporations with. So if we don't deal with that, we're going to have major issues later. I think that we're pushing the buck. And it's the same with our money. We need to invest in our people and educate our people more. But what's the end game for this? You guys see, like 20 years from now, like let's say the climate is going to hit us up. In property, there's major issues. California, though we are a substantial power holder when it comes to our GDP and everything what we're doing, we have major issues with housing. And the nation, we're going to face a lot of houses being
What is
toppled
that?
by
What is
fires.
that in the background?
There's like an echo.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, Darren, it's an echo wherever you
I
at.
don't, that ain't me.
Testing. Yeah, that's you, Judge.
Yeah, Judge, you gotta mute.
What is going on with your
If
thing?
I mute, I might not be able to get back on, but I haven't done anything. I'm just sitting here in a chair.
Well,
So,
why is it when somebody speak, we can hear ourselves? It's a feedback.
well, I
Dana, I
hear
think we
that
entered
too.
into another dimension.
I'm hearing that too.
Can you
Well,
hear me okay?
I hear you fine, sir.
everybody is an echo, but I want to. I need for you to mute, Judge, so I can test to see if it's you or not.
It was him.
Testing, test. Yeah, it is you, Judge. Just stay muted for a second. All right, go ahead and finish up, Darren.
I think it's everybody because I'm hearing an echo on
No,
my
no,
end too.
No,
she
it
got
was
it. She
it
got
was a
it. No,
judge.
my whole thing is just like, let's think about the long game. Like, this is just our experience consciously here. Like, and we have kids, hopefully, that we're condoning and leaving better things for them. Technology is getting better as a species. We're having less wars. And the real reason, like they say, they're not shooting and acting crazy on people is because, like, nowadays we have the media. When they were shooting those fire holes, cameras weren't as easy to access. Nowadays, every country is watching each other, and PR is substantial. This is a game where corporations run things. So corporations understand how finite the PR is. I don't know, like, it's sad that we aren't perceiving what's going on here. Is how is this going to help us financially in the future in equitably as people is my thing. Like, what do you guys think the end game is here, man? Like, what's the route?
I
Well,
don't know what
For
the
what? In what
I don't want
respect? There's
people to answer that right now because I'm trying to close out,
yeah.
and that's open. The questions we could say that for Thursday if we come back up here on Thursday, Darren. So, was that it? Because the judge needs to do his closing remarks.
Well, I would like to ask Judge one thing, like legally, if you look at the like legal stances here in politically, like everyone, he's right. The main issue is, are we enforcing certain things and we aren't? And he's right. People, a lot of times you could pass a lot of laws, and if they don't refuse to enforce it, it's meaningless. So when it comes to that, all these states, man, I feel like everyone's going crazy over the money and the power. Like, we never expected to make this much.
What is your question that you have for him?
Well, the main question would be is can we hold each other accountably legally? Do you think it's possible?
Judge, you got mute.
All right, let's see. Assuming I'm back
Yes.
on. Well, you can make complaints if you have standing to complain. Somebody's prosecutorial entity might pay attention.
Okay. Complain who to the
And
make a complaint to the
I would
It
add,
depends on what it is. If it's federal, there's always the FBI,
Darren.
Treasury Department, a number of things like that. IRS works wonders. They still have that drop a dime on somebody thing.
Darren, I
You
would
can
add
write. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry, Judge. No, I was going to say I would add end game next 20 years, or I would think a lot less than that. This is the beginning of the birth pangs of the Great Reset, right? Which is what we've been talking about for I think a few years now, if not longer. This is what they
I
want
think
to
you're
happen,
100%
so that
sure.
they can
You're
then
100% right. We're going to rebrand the country is what I think we're going to. And that's embarrassing.
yes.
Why are we
Well, they're
rebranding
going
instead
to
of fixing our
they're
issues?
well they're crashing the economy, right? The dollar is unsustainable with the way they've been printing. So they have to crash and create a new global reserve currency. And it looks like they're going to do that with a digital one, either surrounding Bitcoin or another currency. And everything is going to be like we see in China right now, where you're going to have every single thing watched. There's going to be a social credit score. I mean, it's coming. All they need to do is continue to ramp this up. Now, imagine you have other agents here that are getting involved in these alleged protests, and they start setting off bombs. They start using C4. They start putting off sarin gas. You have weaponization and terrorists from China introducing biological agents. You have VX nerve agent potentially that they're able to get in the country and set off. Think about the amount of paralyzing fear that will put into the country that will crash the economy even more so. And now you're talking straight pandemonium.
I think if you go back and check on YouTube in 1973 or 74, Nancy Pelosi first introduced this Project 2025 way back then. I have seen.
I'm sorry, I muted everyone. Sorry about that. Hold on for a second. All right, so I need to close out because I'm getting tired. Peter, anything you want to say? And
No,
we pick up, of course, this conversation on
we'll pick it up
Thursday.
on Thursday.
Yeah, we're
Let's
picking
do
up on
part two
Thursday. You
Thursday.
got a big day ahead of you, and so everyone, please join me and Peter on Thursdays, because I'm pretty sure something else going to happen as far as riots throughout this nation and other stuff, and of course we got to talk about Diddy as well. So
Yeah, I got a date with the Diddler tomorrow, so I'll
exactly.
go over that as well.
All right, Judge, close out the space.
By the way, there is a federal crime called inciting a riot. And some of the elected officials are coming dangerously close to inciting riots. They only get immunity if they're speaking from the floor of Congress, either the Senate or the House, or they're traveling to and from their home places and directly to a congressional session, either Senate or House. And these people are not traveling directly to, they're touring and speaking on behalf of things that are easily interpreted as advocating riots. They are inciting riots. That's a federal criminal offense. Now, somewhere in here, we need to encourage the Trump administration, Bondi, etc., et al., to be vigilant in prosecuting people for violating of the law. The other side has abandoned all claims to moderation after what they did with the January 6th situation. So, what is it? Sauce for the gander is sauce for the goose? Well, they tried to do it to the other side. I think it's only fair play to what's turn around comes back around. So I think they need a good taste of their medicine and an inclination to behave as American citizens instead of somebody who is falling for the same trap as the National Socialist Workers Party did. The acronym for National Socialist Workers Party is Nazi, Nazi, and that's what we're looking at. So let's be vigilant. Let's take a stand, and we don't have to put up with it. We are the people. So let's support somebody that's supporting us.
All right.
And move on.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Everyone listening here.
By the way, one thing, if you want to see something funny, Jen says you talk too much. He posted something. It's Kamala still holding on to them polls ahead. Adam Francisco posted breaking new campaign concept art has leaked for Kamala Harris's rumored 2028 presidential run. This proposed artwork symbolizes the diverse and united coalition she is hoping to build. I had to chuckle when I saw it. Kamala Harris for the people. I know it's a spoof, but it is funny.
All right. Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Judge, as always.